Those hands, are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee.
Trump quickly rose to the top of the polls. In private, he didn't think he'd stay there, but his campaign just kept gathering momentum, and events overseas ensured it would stay that way. On December 12, 2015, a Muslim couple killed 14 people at a work Christmas party. Trump, who'd made headlines the previous month after terrorists killed 130 people in attacks in Paris, quickly called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. It was a significant escalation of his anti-Muslim rhetoric in the campaign. Trump's opponents latched on to the remark. Finally, they thought, we can nail him. But they couldn't land a blow. Trump said something which should have, by the usual rules of presidential politics, made him lose support. But instead, he would gain support. Voters didn't care about convention. Instead, they rewarded him for talking about issues in a way they perceived as true. Trump himself recognized that he was wearing plot armor and could get away with saying some pretty crazy things.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
2 months after the shooting in San Bernardino, Trump's name appeared on a ballot for the first time as an active candidate at the Iowa caucuses, which marked the start of voting in the Republican primaries. Despite leading in the polls, Trump actually finished second in Iowa behind Ted Cruz. Lots of people, including most of the mainstream media, breathed a sigh of relief. Surely they thought the madness was about to end. The adults were about to take over, but Trump was just getting started. He won in New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina, a state where more than a quarter of people were African American. Soon, Trump's opponents were forced to admit something. To have any chance of stopping him from winning the nomination, they had to work together. The field was soon whittled down to just 3 candidates: Trump, Cruz, and Ohio Governor John Kasich. People who were desperate to see Trump fail thought he might stumble under the pressure of being closer to the finish line, especially as questions began being asked about his tax returns. Before 2016, it was customary for serious candidates to release their tax returns as part of the public vetting process.
I'm not releasing the tax returns because, as you know, they're under audit. You know, the only one that cares about my tax returns are the reporters.
But Trump simply chose to play by a different set of rules. He knew his tax returns would be full of compromising details like big debts and business dealings in places like Russia. So instead of releasing them, he concocted an excuse about how he wasn't legally allowed to because he was being audited by the IRS. It was yet another example of how he was able to run rings around both his opponents and a critical media. As the Republican convention, the event where a nominee would be formally selected, approached, Trump had a huge lead in the delegate count. He won 41 of the 56 primary contests. It looked like a formality. Ted Cruz made a last-ditch attempt to get delegates to change their mind. But just like every other attempt Republicans made to stop Trump, it failed.
I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
Something which for years had seemed totally impossible had, in truth, been inevitable for months. Donald Trump had concocted a hostile takeover of the Republican Party and made it look easy. He'd done it by tapping into a well of genuine grievances about American society and the economy, and having the charisma to say what other people weren't willing to. And now, almost 30 years after he first flirted with the idea of running, he was the nominee of a major party, set to run against a highly experienced and well-known opponent, Hillary Clinton. You couldn't imagine 2 more different people. Trump was the brash real estate developer from Jamaica Estates who bulldozed his way into the national consciousness through sheer force of will. Clinton was the Secretary of State and former First Lady who'd been preparing to run for president since she was in college. Serious people expected Clinton to win pretty easily in November. The establishment wanted her to win, but it wouldn't be so simple.
Clinton's campaign found itself fighting allegations and answering for thousands of private emails sent to and from its chair, John Podesta, that were hacked and published by WikiLeaks.
And the Clinton campaign knows this could be a problem for them every day until Election Day.
In the leaked emails, leading Democrats talked about how to undermine Bernie Sanders. The DNC hack could not have come at a better time for Republicans. They'd been trying to make the Democrats' sloppy information security an election issue ever since the FBI opened an investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State. The leaks gave them an opening to attack Clinton for her personal ethics, and they looked like great fodder for Trump.
Her criminal action was willful, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful.
But despite first appearances, the leaked emails weren't all good news for Trump. In fact, they brought up an issue that he'd been trying desperately to avoid. Why did Donald Trump seem to like Vladimir Putin so much? The relationship between the two men dated back to at least 2013, when Trump wrote a tweet asking if Putin would attend the Miss Universe pageant in Moscow, and whether he'd become his new best friend. That was weird, but at the time, no one really paid much attention. But since then, Putin had sent Russian troops to annex Crimea and destabilize the democratically elected government in Ukraine, a US ally. And long before then, his disregard for the rule of law had turned him into one of the United States' main geopolitical adversaries. Trump seemed to genuinely like Putin and admire his strongman political style. But people also wondered if there was something deeper. Did Trump have business interests in the country? Did the Russians have compromising material on him? And why was Trump acting so weird about it?
Do you have a relationship with Vladimir Putin?
I do have a relationship.
What exactly is your relationship with Vladimir Putin?
I have no relationship with Putin.
Trump's reluctance to criticize Putin cut against a core part of his pitch to American voters, that he would use the negotiation skills he'd honed over a long business career to stop the US from being ripped off by other countries. But he saw things a different way. If Russia was willing to interfere in the US election on his behalf, why should he stop them? Besides, Trump was confident that after 40 years in the spotlight, Americans knew who he was, for better or worse. As the campaign neared its conclusion, Clinton had established a small but clear polling lead. If it held up on election night, she'd become the country's first female president. But there were still two more surprises in store. A month before the election, the Washington Post published a video of a conversation Trump had had with the host of a TV show called Access Hollywood, where he'd made degrading remarks about women.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the I can do anything.
The tape was large caliber ammunition for Trump's critics. It showed he was crude, misogynistic, and not fit for the office he was seeking. Trump knew it was bad, because for the first time in his campaign, and maybe for one of the first times in his adult life, he apologized.
I've never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. I've said and done things I regret, and the words released today on this more than a decade-old video are one of them.
The campaign briefly went into lockdown. Some people even told Trump to drop out, but he had no intention of doing anything like that. Instead, he used the time to plan his counterattack.
I've said some foolish things, but there's a big difference between the words and actions of other people. Bill Clinton has actually abused women, and Hillary has bullied, attacked, shamed, and intimidated his victims.
Donald Trump's decision to appear before the second presidential debate with the women who accused Bill Clinton of sexual assault was a move straight from the playbook of New York real estate. Instead of groveling or pulling out of the race, he went on the offensive. It was a reminder that Trump was willing to do whatever it took to win, and that despite his own flaws, his opponents weren't spotless either.
Mr. Trump may have said some bad words, but Bill Clinton raped me.
The tactic worked. Instead of the Access Hollywood tape, people started talking about Trump's audacity and Bill Clinton's past. The Access Hollywood experience hardened Trump's belief that he would be rewarded by his supporters for standing up to what they saw as the politically correct establishment. If the mainstream media and Democrats and even some Republicans wanted him to drop out, that was like a badge of honor he was happy to wear. But an eventful campaign still had one twist left.
The FBI reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email use. Director James Comey explaining in a letter to Congress, in connection with an unrelated case, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation.
James Comey's decision to reopen the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server was a shocking last-minute surprise. Still, it looked like it was too little too late. On election night, Trump wasn't expecting to win. He enjoyed how close he'd come, and enjoyed a campaign which had been built around indulging him. He settled in for the night at his Trump Tower penthouse. Clinton, meanwhile, had booked out the Javits Center, a convention center with a glass ceiling she thought she'd be breaking through, which just happened to be built on a site which Donald Trump used to own back in the 1970s. And then, over the course of the night and into the early hours of the morning, history was made.
Clinton or Trump? It's time for America to decide.
We will, of course, retain the White House with the election of Hillary Clinton.
America will vote Trump.
We have a projection. It is a big one. It is the state of Florida. 29 electoral votes. They go to Donald Trump.
We have already called Ohio for Donald Trump.
And in modern times, the way Ohio goes has been the way the country has gone.
Both Clinton and Trump are putting a ton of attention in one particular battleground state, North Carolina.
Donald Trump has won the state of North Carolina.
Donald Trump wins Wisconsin, surpassing the 270 electoral votes.
Huge news. Actually, the AP now projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of Pennsylvania.
There's just no path forward for Hillary Clinton. That's 20 electoral votes from Pennsylvania.
This is CNN Breaking News.
The American people have spoken. Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States.
Despite getting almost 3 million fewer total votes, Trump won the states he needed to and pulled off an incredible upset. The man almost no one thought would actually run, who no one thought would last the distance, who no one thought would win the nomination, and who almost no one thought would win the election had triumphed. It didn't matter that almost no one thought Trump could do it. He always believed he could. 2.5 months later, on a cold January day, he was inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States.
For the first time, the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Throughout his career, his candidacy, and then his presidency, Donald Trump changed the United States in profound ways. He grabbed hold of the fault lines in American society and ripped them wide open. There's just one question left. Why did he run for president? Wouldn't it have been easier just to keep tweeting and doing The Apprentice? The answer is that Trump has always had a burning desire to prove people wrong. Sometimes they're people he loves, like his father, but more often he's spurred on by the thought of shutting up his critics. The mainstream media who never took him seriously, the establishment who considered him unworthy of higher office, and the people who deserted him when he was at rock bottom in the 1990s. I truly believe that Trump decided to run for president after being humiliated by Barack Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. What better way to stick it to all those coastal elites than by taking over the office they cared so much about? And what better way to prove to his father that he was a killer?
I don't think people change very much. I don't like to analyze myself because I might not like what I see.
To learn more about the man who defeated Donald Trump in the 2020 election, Joe Biden, just watch this video next. Thanks for watching.